Welcome back to the Festival of Dam. I'll hand over to your conference chair, David Lipsey. David, over to you.
Tom, thanks so much for your help with this and all day long. Many of DAM's original roots lie in the automotive industry. General Motors was one of the first companies to volunteer for an adventure when DAM barely had a name, and looked in many different ways in which this technology could come to use. There were some successes, and throughout the automotive industry, there were some adventures, one of which was giving dealers the right to go into their image library and add anything they wanted to add as far as an image was concerned. It was an intriguing bit of Wild West. And a lot of, so we say, friends of the family ended up in the images that were being used in the dealer network. What a far cry from what Christa is going to share with us today at dealer.com. A very sophisticated, fascinating application to see DAM come to life and support. Christa, it's been a delight working with you on this. Thanks for your efforts both in the field of DAM and putting this presentation together. Over to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, David. So I'm Christa Anderson. I am a project manager at dealer.com of COX Automotive. I've been with dealer.com for a little over 7 years, working primarily in the DAM space. So I had truly the pleasure of going on this journey from an old school server system to our first DAM that we actually stood up, grew that to the team, and as our business grew, actually stood up a second cloud-based solution. And along the way, I have done a lot with different workflows, efficiencies, processes. So I hope you all walk away feeling inspired, learning something that you can take back to your team. So I want to touch on the journey we're going to go on together today. And don't worry, there is tons of automotive puns throughout this, so buckle up. But first, I want to go over why we needed a DAM. So I'm going to paint a picture of the automotive landscape, the work that dealer.com does, so you understand why a DAM is so pivotal to our success of our creative team. 2, I want to share dealer.com before a DAM. This might be a place that you're currently at with your business. This might be something you've already experienced, but it's nice to get a snapshot of where we started. 2, putting the pedal to the metal, I'm going to go over some of our best practices that we implemented to make this transition smooth and effective for our different team members. And then lastly, driving forward. Once you have everything, implemented, you've put in all this time and energy, what is possible as a team with a DAM? And of course, some time for questions at the end. So firstly, welcome to dealer.com. If you don't know what we do, we build websites and advertising for car dealerships across the United States. Our company slogan is "We are changing the way the world buys, sells, and shops for vehicles." And I like to call this out because we're trying to really be pivotal in the automotive market. And that means that we need tools that are robust, that can connect different team members so we can serve up this product to our dealerships. So I'm going to focus in, though, on a smaller kind of piece of this puzzle, specifically a division called Managed Services. So this is a creative team. And as you can see, there's a lot of different subcategories within that team, from SEO to video. Specifically, we're going to look at the graphic designer's journey. We have a lot of different assets that come into our DAM. We have a lot that's coming from the automotive industry that we're ingesting. And then we have a lot that we're producing for our dealers. Everything from Facebook ads, social media, the banners on websites. So I really want to focus in on this group because they touch every asset that comes into our DAM. So again, just to give you kind of a scope of the sheer volume that we're working with. To start, we have 45 OEMs in the market. OEM stands for the original equipment manufacturer. When I say this, just think an automotive brand, whether that's BMW, Audi, and we have more brands coming onto the market all the time, like Rivian, Tesla, different startups. And so every single one of these OEMs have their own digital asset management system. And within that, they have a range of different assets that we're needing to pull. So on this right-hand side, I wanted to give you a small snapshot, a small taste of the things we're pulling so we can actually make the creative and do all the deliverables for our clients. So we have everything from brand standards, like you can see with this Volvo logo, Every OEM has their own unique parts, service, and accessories. So picture a Volvo battery or a roof rack. We've got interior shots of vehicles, and then we've got exterior shots of vehicles. You can see on the screen we have isolated vehicles. They're actually called jelly beans in the industry, but they are the images that have no backgrounds. And then we've got the vehicle shots that do have backgrounds. And so to put this into perspective, we have 45 OEMs. Each OEM has anywhere between 5 and 10 different models. So with Volvo, we've got the XC60, the XC90. Every single one of those has its own trim. So it's got a sunroof, a roof rack, fog lights, and all of those images are going to be different to depict those differences. And then there's also all the different colors and angles of every vehicle. So if you think about it, that is thousands of assets that we're ingesting. And we ingest this every year because we're getting new images from 2023 models to 2024 models and beyond. So that's a lot of assets that we're trying to keep organized, share across teams, tag, keyword, etc. And you're like, all right, Christa, that's a lot, but that's probably the meat and potatoes of what you're working with. There's actually a little bit more. So we also have images that are unique to our dealerships. So we work with dealerships across the United States. They've got their own logo, branding, images of their service bay. We've got generic images, seasonal images, and we've got generic services that the OEMs don't photograph, like tire alignment or car wash and detailing. So again, we have even more assets. Now, what are we using all these assets for? We're using them for creative. And I know I've already touched on this, but we've looked at everything we've ingested up to this point. Our designers then are taking all that, creating different slides like I have on the screen, and then producing thousands of those in a given month, hundreds of thousands of those across a given year. So we're doing a lot of work for different dealerships. All right, so now you have a great picture of everything we're working with, everything we're trying to house in this DAM and keep organized. Let's talk about the DAM experience. So life before a DAM, let me tell you, it started with an old school server system. Every team member was logging in via a VPN. As server systems go, it did not have robust search functionality. Even if we had search, a lot of requests would time out. Even just trying to search the file name was kind of an experience. An old school server system didn't come with a lot of the features that modern day DAMs provide. So we didn't have automations and integrations, expiration dates or deletion history. Another really important thing we noticed was teams were chatting each other to find assets. And maybe some of you guys can relate to that. But you have a designer who's looking for that Tacoma, and now you have 40 designers looking at that chat trying to find that Tacoma for somebody. It's not a great use of time. And then we're also noticing duplicated assets were getting downloaded because there was a lack of communication and collaboration. That same Tacoma image might get downloaded multiple times onto people's desktops, and they weren't sharing it with each other. And then lastly, for us, the before the DAM experience was pre-COVID. So we had 2 locations at that time, one in Burlington, Vermont, one in Kansas City. They both had their own on-site servers, and as such, they weren't sharing it together. So that meant we were siloing work, siloing assets. There was a lack of collaboration. Okay, so let's touch on switching to DAM and that journey. Kind of like this old 1996 Mustang, we're going to move into 2023, just like this 2023 Mustang. All right, so the next couple slides, I want to touch on the things we did with our teams that made it really smooth and successful. The first one, and I can't stress this one enough, is meeting your team and their workflow. So for us, that meant we were shadowing multiple team members, both on our design team and in some of those other divisions that you saw on that first or second slide. I've already kind of touched on the fact that we ran into duplicated work efforts, that they were leaning on chat tools. Another thing that we noticed, though, in shadowing was people were reliant on memory. I can't tell you how many senior designers I sat with that knew the folder structure actually pretty well. They could find it quickly, which is lovely until you had a new hire. And then that new person couldn't find the assets. They had no idea where that Tacoma was. And then the flip side of this is we got to see their strengths. I got to see that these designers know Adobe like the back of their hand. They could get the work done quickly. The roadblock they were facing was finding those assets. And then I have this one in bold. Getting to shadow somebody meant getting to see how they navigated to find what they needed. And it meant I got to ask questions of, if you could search or you could use a search term, what would you be typing in? And that helped me learn a lot for this next part. Keywording and search. So I'm sure throughout today's conference, you've heard about this a lot. And as you can see on my slide, I have an image of an adorable cat. And I promise I didn't put this in just to wake you up. Because next to it, I also have an image of a Dodge Hellcat. So we got our DAM, we got it set up. We implemented round one keywording and metadata structure. We were so excited. We were like, this is going to be awesome. And then we had people using it. And I had a team member come to me and say, Christa, every time I search for a Dodge Hellcat, I'm getting images of cats. And I was like, well, that's not ideal. Well, obviously, a designer's not putting a cat image where the Dodge Hellcat could go. It still was a messy search result, and it was slowing people down. So after meeting, I was able to look at, okay, how can we be more mindful with the keywords we're using? And how can we, teach better search habits? And so we ended up taking that to a round 2 of keywording and metadata that we implemented. And as you can see on this right-hand side, a bunch of different keywords we selected, like forward, left quarter, to have it provide cleaner search results while also being very intuitive. So for example, we got rid of the term front facing. While it kind of seemed intuitive, it was pulling up images of faces, wasn't as clean search results. And we realized you could type in less words, which was faster, by just putting left. So once we implemented this and trained the team, we had much faster and cleaner search in our DAM. And I really want to show you that. So I just want to actually give a quick disclaimer. I've implemented this keywording structure on 3 different tools. So I'm showing you one of them today. I picked the one that's got the kind of prettiest interface, focused less on the tool being used and more on the power of a robust keyword and metadata system. So I'm going to hit play. And as I start to type stuff in, you'll see that I'm typing in Subaru, because for our search, we always want to start with our OEM. We know we need a certain year. In this case, we'll put in our 2023. We're going to use left, which is one of the keywords you just saw on that previous slide. We're then going to add in location, because let's say our design needs something a little bit jazzier. We have the color, and we actually just added to our keyword structure all of the OEM colors. So people wanted cosmic blue and red satin. So that's now another keyword they can search by. And then for us, we have all those different trims. So we're going to look at specifically the touring model. In a matter of seconds, we went from a large DAM full of images across multiple OEMs, and we were able to find our 2 left-facing blue touring Subarus. That's just so powerful and something that we're really proud of, and has helped make our team really successful at moving faster and finding exactly what they need. So you're going to notice, though, on the right-hand side, I have 2 other images that I want to touch on really quick. One of them is the file naming convention. You might be like, okay, you have such a robust keyword system. Why do we need to pay attention to naming conventions? We got to think about our end users. And for us, we have teams who are taking images out of the DAM. And when they take it out of the DAM, they don't want to spend time trying to look up the keywords that are on the back end of an image. This way, they can look at the file name, know that they grabbed the 2023 and not the 2024, and can immediately use it on a dealership website. So that's something that I highly encourage to different teams, is think about your file naming conventions. The other thing I have is no image available. So let's say that search that you just saw happen pulled up this image, no image available icon. We wanted to see how we could communicate to team members through the DAM that Subaru hasn't provided this image. And we didn't want to do it through chat. We didn't want to do it through email. So by having this indicator, that's available when searching, it meant team members know, wow, I don't need to chat somebody. It just doesn't exist yet. I'll check back in a week or 2 weeks. So think about how you can leverage indicators as well to clue your team in and save those chats as you go forward. All right. Moving along. All right. My next piece of advice is your checklist. So I have it in big, bold letters. What brings your team value? We already touched every team's going to be different, but I highly recommend keeping a checklist of what do you need, whether that's you don't have a DAM yet and you're looking to get one, or you have a DAM. And I say keep this checklist kind of like a resume. Keep it active, update it, because your business is going to keep growing. Your team's needs are going to keep changing. At some point, you might need different things and look at different providers. So something to just think about. For us, we had a couple of must-haves like expiration dates because we have strict rules around compliance. We can't put an old image on a dealership website. We looked a lot at what it integrates with because we wanted to make sure it worked with our tools. And then we looked at things like deletion recovery. So when a dealership leaves and comes back to our service, if we've deleted their portfolio of old work, we could recover it at the snap of our fingers. And then most importantly, like any DAM should, bring the teams together. Today in a post-COVID world, we have team members across the United States, and we needed a tool that could allow anybody working from anywhere to connect and get work done. Okay, and then this one's a fun piece of advice, automation. Obviously, you got to get the nuts and bolts in place before you can start having fun with automation. But for us, once we implemented the DAM, we had a new problem. We were creating so much work so quickly, so fast, that our DAM was actually starting to run out of space. And we noticed we were getting so many images, we wanted to make sure it didn't get stale or bloated or out of date. So again, we turned to our teams. What do you guys need? We realized that they only needed 13 months of creative from our dealerships. So we could archive a lot of those old assets. But we didn't want people manually moving stuff. Maybe they'd miss a case or a job. It wouldn't move correctly. We wanted to automate it. So with our DAM, we were able to tap into the API, have this automation look at the jobs, check against our CRM to make sure that it actually is older than 13 months. So we didn't have any jobs going missing that aren't supposed to. And now this runs every day. It's cleaning out our DAM, pushing stuff into an archive, and making our DAM just run lighter and getting rid of all of that kind of old, potentially expired content. So again, automation is just another tool in your toolkit to really streamline your DAM and make it work for your team. Okay, this is one of my favorite slides. So you've kind of seen our tips, seen our tricks, some of the secret to our sauce. And while I can't show you all the data, I wanted to kind of call out what is possible as a team when you've implemented these best practices. So what I'm allowed to share is that for the month of September this year, we created over 20,000 assets. Those are those slides, banners, etc., that our designers are making. And we make 75% of that in 1 week. So that's pretty amazing. And if we look at this graph, this is the depiction of that 1 week. And again, while I can't show you all the hard numbers, we do have on Wednesday of that week over 4,000 assets getting created. So your team can do really powerful things when you start connecting them and making those assets really accessible to do the work that they know how to do and they're going to crush and cruise through. Okay, so this was a lot of content, a lot of information. We're cruising through it, but I wanted to recap. It's just like buying a car. First, what does your team need? Is it the family car? Is it the Ferrari? Maybe it's a mix of both. Only you know what your team needs out of a DAM. 2, what is your checklist of must-haves? If you need the tinted windows, make sure that your DAM has it. And then trick out your ride. These are the things that you implement, the best practices around keyword, file naming, if you do want a folder structure, to make sure that it's set up, again, for your team's needs and success. And then last but not least, the fun part, it definitely comes at the end though, is looking at that integration and automation. How can you connect it so it drives everything else forward? And with that, I'm excited to hear if anybody has any questions.
I got the cruise part of the crush and cruise, but anyways. So, Christa, thanks for the insights that you shared with us. There's a very lively set of lots of comments and questions in both chat and Q&A, so I'll try to maneuver through a few of those. One is, what surprised you along the way of looking at adoption with this, of looking at DAM organizationally?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because when we first started to look at our teams, we thought we were just going to implement a DAM for one team. We were like, all right, we just have one small group that we're trying to help and solve for. And the more that you start to talk to different people within your company, and for us, all those different divisions, we realized how many people would benefit from a DAM and connecting those teams together and sharing assets. And suddenly it goes from, well, maybe I just need it for one team to, wow, my whole company can benefit from having a DAM.
And where were the points of persuasion to help manifest the budget, the technology, the staffing requisite to having that become successful?
Yeah, so a lot of it comes from vetting and testing. So once we knew what our team needed, we spent a lot of time either getting the chance to test it for a chunk of time. We had a lot of different stakeholders looking at it and kind of proving out that this is value. We even measured things down to seconds. Was it 3 less clicks that a team member had? When we did all the math, we realized along every step of the way, we were saving, 20 seconds here, a minute here, and suddenly that's hours of work across weeks, across years, etc.
That's truly a best practice in our field. Journaling down to very small levels. It's so easy to say, oh, we'll save so much time, or we have 40 designers looking for that same thing because it got very popular. But journaling those data points, especially for year one, but then in some ways more compelling for year two and out year savings, is quite important. So my compliments to the chefs, or was it the drivers, whoever that is. A question came in. Do you have dynamic placement from your DAM into your design tools?
So we go about that in 2 different ways. That is a feature that we wanted to make sure we had in our DAM. And for us, we have the ability to do it both in our core design tools and then in a more user-friendly tool. So it's, it's not an Adobe product. It's part of that DAM tool. So we have, I guess, something that's working for our designers is a more complex design integration, and then something that also works on a more simple level for a front-end user to make those edits, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Thank you for that. A few questions have come in that relate to analytics and reporting. So thank you for concluding the presentation with that and sharing some part of one report. I wondered if you could speak at a more general level on some of the other insights that analytics bring to you, even without, you don't have to show any data or obviously anything like that. And a very specific question that came in is, do you use the reporting tool to look at null search results, or failed searches, to help gain insight into, guess we're missing that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So we definitely use a range of different reporting tools to make sure that everything is getting keyworded, that we're not missing things. We also have, it's honestly as simple as a form, just to be able to track the human experiences. There's a lot of people who are in there every day. So when they're getting a null result or not getting what they want, we have space for them to report that in as well. Because while back-end reports and that data is good from like a logistical perspective, this is about the people. So having those front-end users reporting in issues is something we lean on a lot. It helps us know where we need to improve, where we need to supply more stuff, and how to perfect our metadata structure.
How a little bit allied to that. So when there are null search results, or there's clearly something is askew because people are complaining to you about search, a question came in if you could describe your internal hierarchical authority for taxonomy and metadata work. So how do people coalesce? Do you have monthly governance meetings? Is it more of an on-demand nature? How does change occur within the taxonomic and metadata operations?
Oh, that's such a good question. So we have a team that obviously focuses on just maintaining the dam because, again, it's a very large one. And we actually have a weekly check-in call, and that's not like every week we're talking about metadata schema exactly. We're
Hmm.
checking on overall health, improving it, growing it, that kind of stuff. But we check in weekly just to see what are those one-off issues that have come up, and are any of them urgent? If they're urgent, obviously we'll address them within that week,
Hmm.
just because we want to make sure that if something's going terribly awry, it gets solved sooner than later. But then we'll build it into a roadmap, almost like tool development. So for like, all right, everybody wants to add a season as a keyword to our vehicle images. Let's add that in Q4. And that way we also have a nice firm starting point of, all right, from Q4 of 2023 going forward, this is now a search term that's available. And that lets our users know that if they're searching for a 2017 image, that's not going to be an available search term to them. And that's something that's nice. So that way we don't have to spend as much time going through a historical archive of images because those
Hmm.
will get archived year over year, and can really focus on improving moving forward.
A question came in. Do you have rights governance documents linked into the asset or something that articulates the expiry date? For example, one of the large manufacturers of at Kohler, they're meticulous about on this date, that model oven in the background of a Kohler kitchen goes away. Do you have something analogous to that where there's a rights related join?
Yeah, so a lot of these different OEMs, when we're sourcing that image, they have their own expiration dates. So we're always making sure that we're being mindful of those, watching for those. And then within our tool, we're lucky we have a baked in functionality that we can implement where we'll assign an expiration date, and it will send email notifications to everybody saying, hey, this is not allowed to be used anymore. And so we immediately take it down. And actually, this tool automatically will turn it off, which is lovely, but it's something that's very important to us because, again, we have compliance restrictions. So we can't put that 2023 image on a 2024 website. So it's something that we're constantly checking in on as well.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to pair two questions here together. We had a question come in. How was your change management experience? And what was it like with content creators? And then the ever-present tug and pull and taffy of getting them to upload assets and enter metadata.
That's a great question. So change hits everybody differently. There's some people that were so thrilled and ready to like steam ahead, embrace it. If they could, they'd probably continue to keep challenging it and changing it at a very rapid rate. And then we had some people who were very anxious about it. And so we tried to, one, show that we had done all of that research, that this is going to provide value, that it's going to save time. And so we could kind of demonstrate for people that had that anxiety, hey, this is going to help hopefully make your life more easy and fun and your day-to-day job a little bit better. And so that helped kind of smooth over that transition. We're also really big communicators internally. So we hosted open office hours, lots of training sessions, space for people to learn and ask questions. Because you're not going to walk out day one and know how to use everything and all the capabilities that are there.
In looking across this large organization that this services, when there's transition at mid to upper management levels where the dam has been nurtured or supported, how do you keep in touch with that kind of change in governance?
Yeah, so we talk a lot to our leaders, and we keep an eye on how the landscape is changing. So I truly believe that a good company will forever keep growing. And that means that we're looking at the automotive landscape, we're looking at our own company, we're looking at our own needs. And so it's something that they're constantly kind of getting updates of, oh, this has changed, this has saved time, this team is now going to leverage this aspect of the tool. And
Mm-hmm.
it helps us all stay on the same page as we move forward. And we're also big believers at an end of the year, kind of Q4, recapping all the different changes we've implemented to make sure if you missed one of those updates along the journey, you'll know going into the next year, what's accessible and what we're planning to change.
Great. Well, speaking of the seasons turning, we've reached the end of the time for your presentation, and I'll be making some concluding remarks to our colleagues who have gathered today. It was such a delight to spend time with you over these past few weeks getting ready for today. Thank you for sharing your insights, and we look forward to hearing from you again with the 2024 model.
Perfect. I can't.
Yeah, neither can we. Thanks so much. Great. So as some of you know, I like to mess around with words a little bit when we talk about what we try to do as a community. So, dear asset manager, for every single touch point in vital assets, let's orchestrate fundamental, dynamic, active meaning in digital asset management. And if you take the first letter from all those, we get Dear Asset Manager, Festival of Damn for Damn. So on that note, thank you for attending the Festival of Damn 2023. Just a reminder that the recordings from the event are accessible in the Agenda tab. We always love to hear your thoughts and feedback on the event experience. Please take a minute to tell us in the post-event survey. I and we are excited to be at our forthcoming live Los Angeles event. It takes place March 19th and 20th. We hope to see many of you there. Check out henrystewartconferences.com for more information. Take advantage of the early bird offers. Thank you all for joining us today. To our speakers for their thoughts and their energy and their concentration. What a great event. We look forward to seeing you all again. This concludes the 4th Festival of Damn. Good day.